how you guys can make this today. Take some time during your lunch break or just your afternoon. It's a lot easier to be inside today for sure than yesterday. But yeah, today we have Michaela joining us. She is working over at Delong. This being our 20th year in business, Delong has been a partner of ours for the entirety of those 20 years. They've not only helped us with birdseed, but they've kind of been our neighbors in helping us with these awesome presentations. I'm sure many of you guys have met Jeff, but so that high quality, like great seed that you guys get is because of these folks. So we're really humbled that they're able to kind of take time out of their day to help us with this presentation. And then also, as kind of a form of thank you, they're also going to be donating a couple things to raffle. And at the end of the presentation, Michaela will kind of pick those two names out. She'll be donating a large bag of our Barn Owl Banquet blend, and then also a 18-inch Onyx feeder, either the Niger or the Standard, which if you guys know, like that's a super awesome feeder and is very, very nice of them. So without any more ado, I guess one last thing, at the end of this, we'll be doing questions. I feel the easiest way to do it is there's a chat functionality. If you kind of jiggle your mouse one more time, it'll be the fourth option to the left. You click on that, it'll open to the right. Just type your questions out, and then when Michaela's done, I'll kind of go through those and read them for you guys, and then she will hammer away at those. But yeah, so that way it kind of keeps the show rolling and keeps everything nice and smooth. But yeah, after that, Michaela, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Clark. Like Clark said, thank you guys all for coming on and jumping on during your lunch hours today. We hope that it's a presentation that's worth your time and worth just listening in on. Please feel free to ask any and all questions. It makes the presentation special and unique to you guys. So don't hesitate to ask any type of question in the chat bar at any time, and then we'll address those at the end. So we're gonna jump right in and get started. All right, so obviously today we're just going to be talking about feeding birds, and work on this presentation with Jeff, like Clark mentioned, who has been with our company 49 years in February, just in last month in January. So he's been with the company about longer than most of our current employees have been alive. So it's fun to talk with him and just learn from him. And so he's helped us kind of continue on with the presentations he started and laid the groundwork for. So some things might be familiar and some things hopefully will be new as we talk about kind of where we're sourcing our seeds from and just getting the message out there that we're trying to get the freshest seeds out to your guys' feeders. All right, so just to get started, to kind of get thinking about what kind of birds you guys like to watch. Is it small birds, red birds, big birds, yellow birds? And right now, in the next couple of slides, we're just going to talk about how we're going to attract those birds that you like to see by finding the proper environment for them on your property, and then what we're going to feed them and what kind of feeders we're going to put that food in. So just to go over a couple of common Midwestern birds that we like to see in our backyard. I'm sure most of you as avid bird keepers have seen most of these, the red-bellied woodpecker starting at the top left, yellowfinch, blue jay, chickadee, grosbeak in the summertime, cardinals being our most popular and sometimes most favorite birds to see because we get to see them all year round. And then on the bottom right, in actually pretty camouflage fashion, is our nuthatch. And nuthatches actually will run downward down your tree instead of up like most other birds. And they actually will eat the grubs and bugs that, not so much are detrimental, but live within the tree bark. So they'll actually, like I said, run down your tree and then grab those bugs. So we like to start with a bird-friendly environment. So something that's very, very important is that birds are going to need some sort of cover when it comes to feeling safe and coming to your feeder time after time. So birds sort of travel in a couple day pattern. And so you might not see them every single day because they're at your neighbor's feeder, but as long as you have trees and shrubs around and they're flying, they're able to fly for cover, they're going to come around every couple days. So you want to make sure that you're putting your feeders in good view for you. You're the one, buying the seed and investing money into bird watching. So definitely a good view for you, whether that's right outside your kitchen window, a bay window, on a
really
patio,
no,
or wherever is best for you guys to see. And then in the summertime, it's always awesome to attract hummingbirds with native plants and hanging baskets, whether, there's different bell-shaped flowers that hummingbirds really like, and butterflies as well. So it's always awesome to incorporate those natural plants into your birding habitat. So just a common little tip is to place your feeders close to, but not closer than 6 feet to evergreens or thick bushes. And this especially is important if we're trying to ward away those pesky squirrels that we all like to see every once in a while, but mostly get rid of. Same thing, like I mentioned before, birds like to travel in a couple day pattern. And so they actually, we don't want to let our feeders get empty, just because if they arrive or they come visit on the day that your feeders ultimately are empty, they might not come back for a couple more days for a longer period of time, and they might just skip over you. So definitely keep those feeders fresh and clean with new seed as much as possible. All right, so we're going to kind of move into the different type of feeders, and then we'll kind of break it down by what type of birds like specific feeders. So if you want cardinals, obviously cardinals are a big bird, like we all know, and they are going to want to perch on a large feeder. So large feeders with either curved perches are best if it's going to be a tube feeder. Otherwise, large wooden feeders with large perches are great as well. So just going to kind of go through on the next slide our most popular types of feeders. And like Clark mentioned, we're going to be giving away the middle feeder, the tube feeder with the large perch. And you can either get that in a mixed seed or Niger seed feeder. And they also have all of these feeders available at Barn Owl. Starting on our upper left, the squirrel proof feeder, most commonly known, is a squirrel buster, or a Joel Yankee makes a couple different feeders. This one specifically is motorized, so when the squirrel lands on it, the weight of the squirrel actually causes the feeder to turn and kind of fling the squirrel off. So it's an extra added fun thing to watch as the squirrels land on those. In the middle is Jeff's. So these pictures are all from Jeff. So he's been taking these pictures for years and years. And his Niger 18 port feeder has always been full, and he's very proud of that fact. So the Niger Finch feeder, like I said, the tube feeder with the larger perches, something like this would be good, and is probably like the smallest perch that a cardinal might land on, just because they don't like anything smaller than that. The platform feeder, great for any type of bird, any size of bird, mixed seed blends. That way, like any birds can land and kind of make a feast out of what they choose. A little bit messy so if you're trying to cut down on the mess, maybe a platform feeder might not be the best for you. String feeders, great for peanuts, great for our longer beaked birds, woodpeckers, such as like you see in the picture here. And then the red-headed woodpecker on the ground feeder, and then the bin feeder, kind of the common run-of-the-mill, more gift type feeder that you can find pretty much anywhere. Like I mentioned before, the Yankee Flipper and the 36-inch 18-port Niger feeder, both super common. I think Jeff's actually feeding the premium in that left Yankee Flipper, and then just straight Niger seed, which is great actually to keep away squirrels as well. The squirrels don't really like Niger seed or safflower seed. So if you're trying to keep the squirrels away and attract the finches, you can always use a couple different seeds, but the Niger is the best for that. Just a couple of common run-of-the-mill tips and tricks. It's always fun to see what type of seed attracts different type of birds in your backyard. So you can separate several types of seed in your feeders. If you have multiple feeders, it's always fun to put safflower in one. Like I said, squirrels don't like safflower, so this keeps squirrels away from that feeder. And then keeping a mix or something, and then usually a Niger feeder is great for those finches. Try to clean your feeders often. It's hard in the winter time, obviously. We don't always like to bring feeders indoors, but it's always good to keep them clean when it's wet and mold could potentially be forming. Just keep them, clean with just a very dilute vinegar or bleach solution with water. Scrub them out, rinse them really good, let them dry in the sun to kind of kill off all that bacteria. Number 3 is kind of a funny one.
Hey, Michaela.
Yeah.
Sorry, give me one quick sec. Hey, if you guys don't mind just muting yourself, there's a lot of background noise. It's kind of getting a little distracting. Once again, just bottom left corner, there's a mute functionality. If you see the green and blue bouncing up and down, that means we can kind of hear you. If not, just click on, see that red X go right through. That means you're on mute, and then it'll kind of be easier for us to hear Michaela and kind of help it go smoothly. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Thank you. Like I said before, it's important to keep those feeders full so that when the birds are visiting you on their day, or every day, every morning, they're not going to go somewhere else and look for the food. And number 5 also being funny. Like I mentioned before, cardinals being a big bird, like large perches, whether that's platform feeders or tube feeder with a curved perch, it's important to look for feeders that don't have the peg perches, that they won't land always, or they don't like to land sideways. They like to face kind of where they're eating, and so they're not likely to use those peg perches as much as like the platform feeders. And then we will be giving away the 6 or 18-inch droll feeder later, so you can choose between a cardinal or a mixed feeder or a Niger. Some of our mixes that are great for cardinals, obviously the cardinal food having that black oil sunflower in it. The black oil sunflower important because it's a little bit easier for those cardinals to break in. Striped sunflower is harder, sometimes can deter those pesky birds, but making sure that the cardinals have access to black oil sunflower. They like safflower, they'll eat sunflower chips, sometimes peanuts. So that's important to look for in your mixes. The woodpecker food has all of those seeds I just mentioned in it in a little bit larger quantity of peanuts. The Barnwell banquet, which is special and unique, custom made just for Barnwell. And then the Delong premium, also great, commonly seen in a lot of places. Just a great mix to attract a lot of different birds because it has a lot of different food types and sizes. Just a couple of pictures of some cardinals visiting throughout the throughout the summer to Jeff's feeders. So a 5-year platform feeder, a male and a female, cardinal in the upper left, a droll Yankee mixed feed feeder, and then his brown feeder. Probably same couple of cardinals. All right, and then moving on to finches. They can use pretty much any type of feeder. You'll see them laying on a platform feeder without those small feeds. Like I said, if you want to keep squirrels away, it's always great to keep just plain Niger in one of your feeders to keep those squirrels at bay. And then on the right, this house finch is actually eating Nutrisaf, which is the brown safflower, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Again, kind of just going over the best foods for those. Wild Finch Plus, which is formulated with all small seeds, small sunflower in it, canary seed, finch, Niger seed, and a little bit of millet. The straight Niger thistle seed, sunflower meats, although squirrels do like sunflower meats. So if you're trying to keep the squirrels away, sometimes sunflower meats aren't the best to feed specifically to finches. They will eat some black oil sunflower if they're able to crack it open. And then, like I said, the Nutrisaf safflower, as well as plain safflower. So commonly people will ask, have you seen finches around? And yeah, they actually don't migrate. Sometimes my northern customers, I live in Wisconsin, so sometimes my northernmost customers do see their finches leave, but they don't usually go further south than where you guys are at in Illinois. So you guys should see finches all year round. However, they just molt and change colors a little bit. So they kind of blend in with the landscape a little bit better in the winter time when the colors are a little bit more brown and dreary. And if we have a really tough winter, sometimes they might fly a little bit more southern than you guys, but usually my customers anywhere around barn owl see finches all year round. And this year especially has been true with the mild winter we've had. Everyone has been seeing finches. I know Jeff lives up in Rockford and he has seen finches. I've seen finches around in southern Wisconsin as well. So moving on to two large birds that are pretty to look at, but sometimes pesky to other birds in our feeders. Sometimes Mr. Blue Jay will kind of throw some seed around and make a big mess. He'll kind of scare off some birds every once in a while, but they're always fun to see just those different colors and markings on those birds. They'll pretty much use any type of feeder. Like I said, they like to make a mess. But if you're okay with that, or if you feed a no mess or a no waste mix, usually they'll eat 90% of what's in there. So it's oftentimes a good idea to have a platform feeder with a no mess in it. That way they're not throwing shells and the waste all around your property. Some of our mixes that are great for both woodpeckers and blue jays, like I mentioned before, the woodpecker food, it's that black oil sunflower and a lot of peanuts in it. Also has some pumpkin seeds in it. The patio mix is our true no mess, no waste mix. It has all edible seeds in it with no hulls. So it has peanuts, dried fruit, mixed tree nuts, sunflower, and I think that's it. And then the cardinal food is good for them too, has the black oil sunflower in it. And then the in-shell peanuts are great, a fun thing to watch blue jays come and pick up the peanuts and kind of take them away and crack them elsewhere. So if you like to feed in-shell peanuts, the blue jays really like those, and it's a fun time. I know kind of an extra seed to buy, but a fun one to feed if you're willing. And then just peanut pieces, sunflower meats, suet. Woodpeckers love suet. So if you're into suet to have suet feeders, they make them happy. And then the sunflower and safflower. Just a couple pictures of some woodpeckers Jeff has seen around his property, red-bellied woodpecker, the hairy woodpecker, and then another red belly. A little bit different marking on that one's head. And that one on the right is eating Nutrisaf. Other little red-bellied woodpecker. All right, and moving on to chickadee and nuthatches. As mentioned before, they're kind of really good at camouflaging themselves, both types of birds, small little birds that are fun to watch. And they'll pretty much clean up anything. They'll use whatever feeder you have, and they're kind of scavengers. So they're gonna kind of clean up after everyone and just kind of, hide off in the distance or hide off. They're not gonna create a scene like the larger birds. Nuthatches also will, just to mention, they will sometimes eat mealworms if you put them out. So that's another bird in the springtime that will eat those. We do have a chickadee blend food. If you've ever purchased that before, you'll smell, it has like a nice cherry smell to it. There is cherry flavoring in it, as well as actual cherry fruit, dried cherries in it. Has millet and a couple other smaller seeds. It's more of a fine mix. They'll also eat the cardinal food. The premium, like I mentioned, is great for all these different size birds, and they'll especially pick out the smaller seeds in there. And then just the list of plain seeds as well. Sort of fun bird to talk about, because not everyone has seen them, or not everyone gets to see them every single year, but the tufted titmouse, similar to the nuthatch, but also has that little bit of orange on their bellies or under their wings. So super fun birds to see. Similar in size to the nuthatch and chickadee, so they will obviously eat similar foods as well. And then juncos, which we see in the winter time, the tiny little gray birds that stick out. You can't really see a lot of their features. They kind of just, blend into the landscape, but not to be mistaken for starlings or anything. They are a nice little bird that love to eat whatever you have to offer at the food or at your feeder. And then a couple other birds that we see a little bit later in the winter. Sometimes people will start seeing them around this time up until our finches start turning color. So color, so it's kind of a timing thing, and not super common for everyone to see them. Their redpolls do actually migrate a little bit, and so they sometimes will come and go quickly. I'll travel to Indiana or to central Illinois, and then as I work my way north, everyone's like, oh, the pipes are here, and they're gone, or they can kind of travel.
Michaela?
Yeah.
Can you, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you get a little bit more toward your speaker?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, and then spring and summer birds, like we talked about, I mentioned before, rose-breasted grosbeaks, and then indigo buntings are fun to see. I think as special birds that everyone loves to see when they get to see them, but not always super common to see around. And just a picture of a female, less colorful, obviously, which is common among birds around in the Midwest, and then the male that is bright, that bright red breast and the dark black. And then just some more grosbeaks, an indigo bunting in the upper right-hand corner, and then the bluebird in the bottom left that will like to eat seeds, but also scavenge for worms and bugs and grubs. So if you have a problem with any Cooper hawks, this is a common bird of prey that will scare away many of our colorful birds. So when we're talking about environments and setting up a great bird feeding, bird watching area, it's very important, like I said, that we find or have a cover for our smaller birds to fly into, away from the hawks. So oftentimes if a hawk flies through the area, we're not going to see many colorful birds again that same day. It might take a little bit for our birds to return after a Cooper hawk has flown through. And then everyone's favorite squirrels oftentimes are more of a pest than a friend, but they like to eat and they want to eat too. So common things to kind of keep them, we'll just talk about keep them away, but also feed them because they like free meals. It's great to feed them if you have opportunity to feed them kind of away from your bird feeders. Like I said, keeping certain seeds in your feeders can help as well, but keeping, a source of food on the ground easy to get to so that they don't have to jump from tree to bird feeder is a great way to kind of distract them if possible. Just a couple more pictures of a nice couple fat, happy squirrels from feeding many different types of seeds to them. We do have a certain or a specialty blend designed for squirrels, I guess. It has whole corn in it, peanuts, pumpkin seeds, and black oil sunflower. And like I had mentioned a little bit before, squirrel-proof feeders are common and will work as long as they're sturdy enough and kind of used in conjunction with keeping them fed off to a distance and distracting them. But squirrel-proof feeders are available, like on the left, the Yankee flipper. This one, like I said, is motorized, so it will actually spin. There's a couple, the Yankee blocker, I think the whipper. There's a couple different ones that will close the port when the feeder, the weight of the squirrel will actually activate those feeders to close and shut so that they can't get at it. And then same with this Audubon feeder on the right, the weight of the squirrel actually causes the port to shut and the weight of the birds will keep it open. So a little bit, some ideas of types of feeders. Like I mentioned, drill Yankee, this is the blocker. This one will just pull down the port and shut it when the squirrel jumps on it. But this one's great because it has that baffle to keep the seed ports a little bit more dry as spring or summer rains come. And then a couple others, the Yankee whipper, same thing, that those perches will just fall, and the Yankee flipper. So just another tip, we can, like I said, kind of feed them off to the distance and keep them occupied elsewhere. And then just something that we have started talking about more, and it's been really important over the last 3 years pretty much. Since I started with the company, we've gotten a lot of questions, and it's been really important for us to share where our seeds are coming from. That way we can relate to our customers and then their customers, which are you guys, on where seeds are coming from, because when there's weather patterns or different supply issues, there's actually a real reason why, there might be a shortage or a supply, a low supply of certain bird feeds due to demand or weather, like I said. So black oil sunflower actually is grown. Lots of us obviously might grow sunflowers in our gardens, whether that's striped sunflower or black oil sunflower, but when it's grown in a larger area or larger production, mainly in South Dakota and Minnesota is where you'll find those two seeds. And then sunflower meats, obviously meaning the inside of those black oil sunflowers. So grown in the same areas as the black oil sunflower, just that shell is removed and that's what's inside. And then white millet, the tiny little white seeds that are in a lot of mixes, not to be confused with milo, which we'll talk about later. But white millet is not a filler. Birds will actually crack it open and eat what's inside, and that's mainly grown in Colorado. It likes really dry, kind of more arid climate, so kind of like desert area of Colorado. A safflower, which many of you know had a little bit of issues with in the past with drought and stuff happening out in Utah, Montana area. Safflower is grown out there, and it's a great bird attractant for many colorful birds, and actually, like it says, the least favorite forest squirrel. And then, as mentioned before, we're going to talk about NutriSaff a little bit more. It's the golden safflower. So golden safflower or NutriSaff is actually has a thinner shell. It's not burnt, fried, crisped, not dyed brown for any reason. It's actually naturally occurring. It just has a thinner outer shell. So that white hard safflower is actually kind of removed, and it's just a smaller, more like a membrane rather than a full shell. So it does have less waste, and then they've done some research on it showing that it has more oil, fat, and protein than traditional white sunflower. NutriSaff is not a GMO product, so it's just a different type of safflower seed. And then yeah, it still kind of keeps squirrels away, does the same thing as safflower. Like I said, just mainly becoming more popular because it has less waste, and also grown in the Montana region. All right, and red millet, similar to white millet, is grown in Colorado. Like I said, likes more of that desert, mountainous climate. So grown out there. Cracked corn can be grown all throughout the Midwest, not just Wisconsin. Obviously, corn comes from many states in the Midwest, Illinois, Iowa, being huge producers of corn. Wheat, similar commodity, area, also grown in Wisconsin, sometimes Canada, sometimes a little bit more west in Minnesota and the Dakotas as well.
Hey.
Peanut pieces, so actually can be grown, the Carolinas as well as whole peanuts. Obviously, those peanut pieces have to come from somewhere, so they come from inside those big raw peanuts that you guys get. So the Carolinas and actually Texas is also known for peanut production. However, peanut production in Texas has been really at an all-time low the past couple of years due to severe drought conditions, and so mainly getting all peanut products right now from the Carolinas. Something really unique about peanuts is that they're like a root crop, and they actually, when they go to harvest the plant, they lay it on the soil to dry and kind of clean off. And so if there's any type of severe rain in the forecast or something, peanut production kind of slows down and causes a little bit of a supply chain issue, oftentimes seen around this time of year. And I was just chatting with Clark about it. And so if there's anything creating an issue, it's peanuts right now, but not a large issue at all compared to what we've seen in the past couple of years with other commodities. And then grit and oyster shells, we include them in some of our winter mixes when there's less natural grit for their birds to find and eat, and they actually need that to process food. So they use that gritty kind of rock type structure to blend and grind their food down. And those come from our coastal states to the south. Niger thistle seed is one of the only seeds that we are always importing. It's never grown in the US because of the climate, and growing season in India and Ethiopia. So Niger seed always comes from overseas and it's brought into ports on the East Coast. It's sterilized so that it cannot grow. Excuse me, and then imported and trucked or brought by rail over to us. Milo, like I said before, not to be confused with millets. A lot of times our larger box store brands will contain, their birdseed will contain a lot of Milo just to keep prices down. And like usually only doves and pigeons will eat the Milo. So it's not a common favorite among many birds. And so we don't include it in any of the mixes that Barn Owl carries. And that's grown in Missouri. And then just to go over a couple mixes, I know we've talked a lot about them, so I'm going to kind of just flip through quickly. But our no waste wild bird is super common for many of our birders that like less waste. Obviously, there's less shells in there. There's no black oil sunflower shells. It's just meats. The only true shell or wasteful product in there is going to be the millet hulls, which are very small. And that's just a couple different types of feeders that we can put the no waste into. Delco Premium, probably our most common popular mix. And that has a great mix of different size seeds in it, black oil, sunflower, millet. And so it's a great feed, great seed to put in a lot of our platform feeders where many different size birds are going to visit. And just a couple pictures of a blue jay and a grosbeak enjoying some premium on a fly-through feeder. Cardinal food, probably one of our most popular foods just because it attracts not only cardinals, which are, you know, one of the most common birds we see all year round, but a great mix of high quality seeds, being white sunflower and peanuts as well. So a couple of different birds, 3 cardinals and a grosbeak enjoying that cardinal food. Gourmet woodpecker has a lot of peanuts in it. It's a great food for a great price, being that it does have so many peanuts and black oil sunflower in it, and some dried cherries and raisins as well. Just a great food for a lot of different colorful birds to, like I said, attract those. Chickadee food, great mix if you're going to try and attract some smaller birds. Like I said before, if you open a fresh bag of chickadee blend, you're actually going to smell that cherry flavor that's added into the seed. A couple birds enjoying the chickadee. On the bottom right, you can see that chickadee blend in hit Jeff C and Key Block or Whipper. Wild Finch Plus, like I said before, is a great option for finches. However, if you're trying to keep the squirrels away, it does have sunflower in it, so squirrels will love you for feeding them this. So if you're gonna use it, great. It will attract many different types of birds, but sometimes straight Niger is a better option for finches than the Wild Finch Plus if you're trying to keep other birds away. Or squirrels, I should say. And our true no-grow zero waste mix is our patio and deck mix, super high-end mix with just mixed tree nuts, peanuts, sunflower, and fruit in it. This is great for our friends and customers that have small decks and patios that don't, you know, either they're on the second level or they don't have a large area to, you know, that they want to keep it super clean. So this is a great mix for those customers. And squirrel treat we mentioned quickly before. is popular for our furry friends. Having raw peanuts, whole corn, black hole sunflower, and some pumpkin.
Hey, sorry, one more time, guys. If you can, please just mute yourself, bottom left corner. Just you hit that, you'll see a red line go right through it, and then we can hear your conversation.
Oh, and I'm not.
There you go. Thank you, guys.
All right, just some more squirrels enjoying their food. And then a couple of specialty mixes that we make. Both the wildlife mix can be used to feed deer, turkeys, squirrels, raccoons, kind of whatever you'd like to attract wildlife-wise to your backyard or a property. Kind of referred to as a granola for those other wildlife. And then similar to the wildlife, but just has black hole sunflower and corn in it. And then it's actually sweetened with a molasses over the top. So is our sweet deer corn. Like we mentioned before, woodpeckers love suet. So if you have some suet feeders and want to fill those up, make sure and stock up on that suet. And then we like to mention, just because it's never too early to kind of start thinking about your hummingbirds, whether that is to stock up on feeders or food. Hummingbirds obviously love nectar, and so we can plant hanging baskets or different native plants or different potted plants, I should say, around our bird feeders for those hummingbirds. Oftentimes they like the same, they like that red colored flower or pink, orange colored flower. And then Jeff's favorite hummingbird feeder being this specific one, mainly because if you see in the picture, it has the yellow, those are actually bee guards, so the bees won't be able to run and drink all the nectar out of it. Then just a couple other fun pictures of some birds that Jeff has captured over the years to kind of wrap us up. A little chipmunk. This is a tube feeder of Delco Premium. No waste mix on the right, and another platform feeder, well-weathered, well-used, well-loved platform feeder on the left. And then just some beautiful cardinals visiting in the winter time. On the left, eating that safflower seed. Joining at the platform feeder, the ground feeder, a male and female there. And that female again. And then kind of a series of pictures of the tufted titmouse joining at the platform feeder. Some nuthatches, fun little birds. And then our big pesky blue jay, but super fun to see, I think. A male grosbeak and a female grosbeak you can see in the background on the bottom right. Some woodpeckers joining both on trees and in the feeders, and then a red belly woodpecker really enjoying that safflower seed. You can see the woodpeckers have made light work of Jeff's old maple tree, boring lots of holes into it. A couple other types of woodpeckers, the downy woodpecker, the hairy woodpecker. And then our yellow friends, the finches. House finches. Loves to feed them safflower, a NutriSaff especially. And then some indigo buntings. And then just a couple chickadees. And then to wrap up, just a reminder that we like to leave people with, all of our seeds are grown naturally. There are plants that produce these seeds. They grow in nature. They're not treated with any sort of insecticide or anything. So in the summer months, you might see a moth or a worm if your seed sits long enough. Obviously, we like to rotate and keep the seed at Barn Owl and in our warehouse as fresh as possible. And so sometimes it's a little bit easier if you can have like a metal can or an old freezer or something, or coolers work really well to put your seed in to kind of protect them from extra sunlight, extra elements and stuff, and kind of keep those unwanted insects. But you remember that obviously you're feeding the birds, so they don't mind the birds, or they don't mind the bugs and the extra protein, but sometimes we do. So just remember that it is all natural. So with that, I think there's a couple questions we can go through the questions, and then we'll do the giveaway as a wrap up, if that sounds good to you, Clark.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you again, Michaela. That was really great. Very jealous.
Everyone's still awake.
Very jealous. All those pictures of those birds.
Yeah, Jeff he just has an incredible library.
So yeah, and then I guess with that, do any of you all have any questions that came to mind during the presentation? If you do, you could just type them in that message functionality. Once again, that's going to be kind of right in the middle of the screen. You just click it, and it should pop up to the right for you. I will say one, like with the no waste, one like little hack that I've learned with millet, like a lot of people come and they say, well, the millet, the birds aren't eating it. Some birds will push it away, but they're actually so good with their beak, they'll hull it. But sometimes if you do have growth, a good natural way to prevent that is just a small amount of corn gluten at the base will kind of prevent any germination. And it's a natural protein, so it won't be any negative impact to your birds.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. I think if there's any feedback we get from a lot of our no waste customers, they're like, why don't you put hulled millet in it? And it's oftentimes just a price thing. We don't want to raise the price of that no waste too high that people don't buy it anymore. So just trying to keep, a great seed product in that mix. But yeah, great reminder that if you want to cut down on the growth, corn gluten meal is a great alternative.
Cool. All right, we have our first question here. So what's the best way or food to attract an indigo bunting?
That's a great question, and an obviously very specific question. I think it's oftentimes important to remember that indigo buntings arrive and come visit for a short time in the summertime. And so if we just have that fresh seed out there waiting for them, oftentimes they're like a smaller beaked bird. So smaller seeds is great for them. And then, like I said, having fresh seed in the summertime when they are traveling through and, migrating back north is good for them.
Yeah, I think kind of you touched on it too, like the sunflower hearts, and the more options. Like I always think of when they fly, like it's like a buffet, where if they see other people there, they're gonna stop and see what's up. All right, here's another one from Sherry. She's having issues with sparrows and starlings at their peanut feeder, and I was wondering if you have any suggestions.
We were just talking about starlings being such a pain right now. They like and want to eat too, so it's hard to kind of discriminate against them, but I think potentially try a different type of feed that has a harder shell on it. So sometimes either white safflower, striped sunflower, or black widow sunflower seeds that the birds have to actually work for can be a good deterrent. But yeah, just kind of separating those different seeds. Clark, anything else to keep those starlings away?
No, I was just saying, I think when we had that cold spell, they
Yeah,
like smash and grabbed my entire feeders, and it was just, I even think they intimidated my squirrels, to be honest. But yeah, I felt like I was in a like a Hitchcock film or something. But yeah, yeah, they're a little tough. I typically feed the woodpecker blend at my feeders, and I was having an issue, but exactly what you said. I switched my feed to the safflower, and kind of when it's cold, it's almost a necessity. So they still ate the safflower, but it definitely slowed them down a bit. And then my house finches and cardinals still had a chance at getting some food as well.
Yep.
But yeah. Yeah. And then blue jays are kind of like that too. I notice like they come in a gang and they're in the crow family. So it kind of makes sense, but like I'll notice they come in loud and heavy, like intimidate all the birds. But the nice thing, at least, unlike with the starlings, is A, they're pretty, and B, they kind of get what they want and seem to head out quickly. But yeah, and then I guess I'll have another question. We kind of touched on, we see like occasionally, especially the more birds you feed, you obviously feed the raptors as well. Like when you do have an issue with the raptor, what's your best solution? And kind of what's your recommendation to the folks that kind of get those Cooper's hawks coming through?
yeah, I know when we've talked about it in the past to a couple of specific customers, keeping those feeders close to cover is important, but also sometimes just taking your feeders down for a couple of days. Obviously, we don't want to throw off their pattern of visiting too much, but sometimes if we can just like deter the fact that, or kind of admit the fact that we don't want any birds around, because if you're going to have smaller birds, then that Cooper hawk is going to travel around more and kind of come around more. So sometimes just taking our feeders down for a little bit and, kind of making sure the birds aren't around to provide food for that Cooper hawk can throw off his pattern or her pattern, whatever, as well. So just kind of throwing off their norm, making food not available for them. But then also, like I said, the environment is really important, and making sure that those have cover to fly to. Sometimes I'll have customers that will put up their feeders like under a deck or something, or under a small structure for a while, and just to shield them from that Cooper hawk. But yeah, it's not fun when they kind of throw away or kind of rattle our cages a little bit and scare away our little birds.
Yeah. All right. And then I guess any other questions before we do the raffle? One last chance for y'all. All right. And then yeah, so everything at the end of this is all going to be recorded, and there'll be a YouTube link, and we'll share it via email that we sent to you guys with the RSVP, and then you also see it on the social media. And then at this point, it's 1 o'clock here, so we'll wrap it up. And then Michaela's gonna do the raffle. And then whoever wins it, what we're gonna do is we'll have your name at the front. You just come in at your convenience and redeem it. But once again, I just want to say thank you, Michaela. These are always fun. And it's kind of nice to, especially on kind of a gloomy February day, to see all the colorful birds and get your expertise. And again, thank you for the donation and kind of chipping in for this raffle. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys all for coming. So I just put, Clark sent me the RSVP list. I put it in a random generator this morning. And so our winner for the bag of the Bird Owl Banquet, and I apologize if I say your name wrong, but the seed winner is going to be Kim Lishka.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm so excited about that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks.
And then the winner of the feeder, so I think you're going to have a choice of either a mixed seed feeder or a Niger port feeder, depending on what you like to feed. And that is going to be Colette CMAC.
Yes, thanks. Okay, I'm excited.
Awesome.
All right. Cool. All right. So yeah, I'll have that stuff. We'll have your name written down at the front. And then we'll get you all taken care of. But yeah, thank you guys. And have a beautiful rest of your week. And thank you again, Michaela. You guys have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Very much.